power of a common school-wide focus. The three C's that I kind of kept hearing us going back to, the three C's of clarity, cohesion, consistency. I almost feel, schools are pulled in so many different directions, especially those of you schools that are labeled low-performing. And this work that we're doing in CUNY NYSEP isn't just a project that kind of come and go. We're talking about really building. It's about building roots. And with the consistency of the cohesion, the clarity that comes with those roots, it almost seems like it's less important which pieces of our work that you really held onto and grabbed onto, but just that you hold, and that you hold on tightly. That seems to be what's mattering right now, and is what matters in the work that we're seeing. And what I was also struck by were the power of seemingly little things in the positive visibility of emergent bilinguals in your buildings. So signs at the entrance, classroom word walls, labeling, welcome packets, school announcements. I mean, let's just think about that for a second. The power to a newly arrived emergent bilingual of hearing their own principal stumble through a welcome announcement in their language. What that feels like, right? How that levels the playing field, how it acknowledges and respects the resources that the child brings with them. So these are just little things that can be so large and so powerful. And then there's some big things too. Some really large structural changes that we've heard that schools have undertaken as a result of their involvement in this work. So programmatic changes, we've heard of several new bilingual education programs being created and others being rethought. We also heard about educational, so in the structure section, I was thinking about programmatic structures, educational or pedagogical structures, leadership structures to make this school-wide, right? And so with a programmatic piece, all of these different programming changes are very, very large and impressive. In the educational pedagogical structures, the professional development, the importance of collaborative planning, how you've carved out, Ophelia talks a lot about affordances, and you're making those spaces happen in the Rubik's Cube of a school daily schedule, right? That is a feat. And this idea of leadership as being distributive or collaborative. I don't know that we went into this thinking that, the schools that were really going to take the CUNY NYSEP work and run with it were also schools where leaderships and power structures are distributive, I'm using your word, or collaborative. But it's interesting to see how that kind of came through, that there seems to be something there that would be worth thinking about a little bit more for me. How that's necessary to grow roots, that you have to share your power with the expertise in your building and cultivate it. And this idea that bilingualism is going to be a resource throughout your entire building. So I like the idea that you have to therefore speak to the chorus and not just to the choir, right? To build that kind of buy-in. And then we also, another thread that I want to pull is how you're educating the entire child. We heard a lot about parents, parent classes, different ways that parents are being involved in your buildings in ways that you haven't seen before. And related to that, all the linguistic helpers along the way that help get you there. So those pens, right? These are pens, it's kind of the little things, but $130 that's going to make a space for a child to participate in class or to bring their parent to school. So all these little linguistic and technological helpers, Google Language. When I heard that a lot of schools were using their money for a project to buy iPads, I was like, oh God, what, that could go a lot of different directions. And I'm so excited, up on IS 230's poster, you can see how they're using those iPads and how it's making space for a brand new arrival to participate in a classroom where instruction is primarily in English in a way that they've never seen before. And Rosetta Stone, I was also like, oh God, Rosetta Stone, are we going to plug kids in and have them sitting in a corner? What are you going to do with this? The teachers are learning the language of their students. That's so enormous. I mean, again, and like I said, just the power of a teacher stumbling through a child's language. And creating those affordances and the power that comes with that. And then the simultaneous translation through headsets, of parent meetings. Of course you're going to have more parents come as a result. And these linguistic helpers that we've been identifying along the way to help do all of these things. The power in the little things and the power in the big things. Thank you all. Okay, Celia is good at big.
Thank you, Kate. Kate was listening more than...
And I forgot.
What?
I forgot, Tatiana gave me work. Oh. She wants me to tell you all that the New York State Association for Bilingual Education Conference, March 14th through 17th, there's a call for proposals coming soon, nomination forms for principals, teachers, and support specialists of the year. So if you have people that you'd like to nominate, that those are on the New York SABE website. Excuse me, I have homework.
And it would be wonderful to have many of you participate in the New York SABE conference and tell a little bit about the work. I know I'm going to be there, and many of us are going to be there.
I do hope you'll propose to different conferences.
Okay, so I'm going to be brief. I hate not seeing all of you. Okay, there's no one else there. I think back at that first meeting we had with the principals way back. It must have been December of last year when we were thinking of applying for this grant. And I remember that meeting and thinking, is this really going to be able to take place? And some of you worried about whether we were going to monitor you or not, and are saying what we're going to try to do is work with your schools and work with all of you. And Patrick Kelly said to you today that he got immense joy in serving his kids. And I think I speak for the entire CUNY NYSIB team that's here, I think we get a lot of joy. We get immense joy in listening to you. So that's what I'm feeling today. I'm feeling really very hopeful, and I'm feeling a lot of joy in what I see. I mean, it's mind-boggling what you're all able to do, and I'm very, very grateful to all of you. We're all very grateful for all your hard work. Principals and teachers have had a hard time in the last few years. And I think what really reconstitutes me all the time is listening to principals who are creative, who are struggling, who are doing good work, and to teachers who are doing the same, because I think that that will enable all of us to get out of the place that we're in. And I think the more of this good news that we share, how the good work that you're all doing, I think that is very important. I think today's work was about transformation. I think that we've all come a long, long way. Our team has come a long way. We have really learned a lot from each other, and all of you have also come a long way. So transformation is probably something that I'm going to focus on. Transformation of schools, of principals, of teachers, of parents, of students, of course, which is our focus. I think we've had transformation of 4 components, and I think, again, that's what I want to talk about. Transformation of your spaces, transformation of your time, transformation of teams, and transformation that comes across through translanguaging. So what we heard was a lot of transformation in your spaces, in your schools, being all-inclusive in your walls, because las paredes hablan, in extending after school, libraries, classrooms. So all of these spaces that have been transformed through your good work. And then, of course, the time. Time that has also been transformed because you are doing language allocation differently, and you are making space for teacher inquiry and teamwork, and that's very important, and that's the next topic. And that is the building of teams. I think we have created incredible teams through our CUNY NYSED work here. You know, one of the things that some of you do not know is that we are working across campuses. You know that CUNY has 23 campuses, and we're working with faculty from different campuses. For me, that brings me immense joy. It's wonderful to see Brian and Vanessa and the rest of you who I can't identify right now, and to think that we are going beyond the walls of this place. So also, to me, that's very, very important. Especially the fact that they're young people who are doing this work and are going to be here, and whose work is also taking root. And you know, it's great to know that, for me anyway, it's great to know that this work is taking root in your places as well as it's taking root in our places, right? So it's always a teamwork. And then the teamwork that happens not only within the school, but also with your teachers. I was touched by the story of, I think, the Medford School that is also sharing the license not only with the parents so that they can learn Spanish, with the teachers so that they can learn Spanish, but also with the parents so that they can learn English. And then the translanguaging instruction, which I think all of you have said well, it's another tool to work through with whatever it is you're working with, right? Whether you're working with SILA, or you're working with Margarita Calderon, or you're working with Danielson, or you're working through the Common Core State Standards. The idea is how do these translanguaging pedagogies then help you with whatever it is that is taking place in your school. So the sustainability for me is important. I use sustainability instead of maintenance. I don't like the word maintenance. Maintenance makes always things seem too static, or that do not need to be moved. And I think we have to think of sustainability for the future. Actually, the question that was asked, I think of Patrick Kelly, I think that there were wonderful answers in the audience, but I do think that one advantage of translanguaging is precisely that you are allowing these children to use their own language resources, and in that way to sustain their own language practices in ways that move them forward. Because yes, indeed, we have to remember that Wolof speakers also speak French, but so that you can communicate sometimes, but also you have to recognize the fact that they do speak Wolof, because, and that is part of our effort from the very beginning of tying bilingualism as a resource to a multilingual ecology, because we know that in the complex world that we live in, with the movings and goings that are going on, we cannot just think of bilingualism. And yet we know that the structures in our schools are such that we might be able to do very, very well for the language minoritized children who are really majorities, becoming majorities in the United States, but not as well for the other children. So I think always the idea is how do we serve everybody, and I think that's very, very important. You know, we talked a lot about dynamic development from the very beginning and dynamic bilingualism. You know that I talk about dynamic bilingualism, not just additive, precisely because I think that these are practices that have to be brought together. And the other thing is we talked a lot about emergence, right? But to me, again, and tying it back to the joy that I feel today as we end,